You know, in Psalms 43:3 it says, "Send your light and your truth to guide me. Let them lead me to your house on your sacred mountain." And the sacred mountain is when we stand in principle of love and wisdom. When our life flows out of that energy field. When our relations flow out of that energy field. When our principles of life show up as the first thing we think about, not the last thing we think about. You know, I don't think it's a bad idea to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. In fact, it's not a bad philosophy sometimes. Sometimes when we look around in our life, we say, what do I need to do? But I think preparing for the worst out of fear is not what that's about. It's preparing for the worst sometimes is recognizing that we don't have control over everything that shows up. And so it's not a bad idea to, prepare for retirement or do whatever it is that we need to do. Those are good things to do. It's just that we do it out of a recognition that we are seeking the best out of our life. We're calling forth the good in our life experience and in our dynamic. You know, I recognize that when I run into all people, everybody has a story. Everybody has a past. Everybody has a reason why they are where they are. Everybody's experience, including my neighbor Mark, his story informs his experience right then. And he is able to see things differently if I'm able to approach in a way that's not threatening to him. If we have conversations, you can see that he begins to relax and see life in a different way, that maybe the ordinance in his house isn't as necessary as he thinks it is, or maybe it is, I don't know, but he's able to talk about it without feeling threatened. And so maybe that's what it's about, is just showing up in the lives of people who maybe are living their lives out of fear, because we all know a lot of folks that are, and many of us are ourselves living parts of our lives out of fear. I remember when I left Seattle Unity back in back in 2002 is when I left the church. And I knew that I was supposed to leave. And yet Karen wasn't there. And so we were in this kind of situation where I knew I was supposed to leave. We were co-ministers, and she wasn't in that spot. And yet I had, coming out of my sense of principle and leadership, and I just absolutely knew that I was supposed to do that. And she had allowed herself, and it's okay that I share this, she had allowed herself to come from a space of fear because her concern was for the kids. That if I left, I was turning our economic life upside down. We would have to move. The kids couldn't stay in one place. The kids couldn't go to the same schools. They couldn't have a sense of place. It was really important to her for the kids to have a sense of place. And so when I left, I made a commitment. I said, I will not, we don't have to move from Seattle. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I know I'm supposed to leave. And so I left. And 6 months later, she was the associate minister there. I was the minister here. And that wasn't in the books. That wasn't in any, you couldn't have planned that out. But when you stand, I believe when you stand in principle and you do what it is that's yours to do, and when you move forward in love and wisdom, that somehow things work out. How would she know that 6 years later she would end up as senior minister on her own right because she had earned it of that same church? She couldn't have known that, and yet, I believe when you stand in love, when you stand in principle, that's how things tend to flow in our life, and our children were able to live in the same place all the way through high school, which is exactly what the intention was in that dynamic. Whenever I have a difficult time with a decision, whenever I'm trying to get centered, there's a Bible verse that I want to share with you that's James 3:13 through 18. And it says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good life let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This wisdom is not such as comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, devilish. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and open to reason. You hear that? The wisdom from above, the wisdom, we could say the wisdom from within, from spirit. The wisdom from within is first pure, then it's peaceable, it is gentle, it is open to reason, it's full of mercy and good fruits, without uncertainty or insincerity.
What is that,
James 3, 13 through 18. And the harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Those are the qualities that show up in the decisions that we make in our life when we stand on principle and we call that forth into our experience. How does this feel? How does it feel if I don't do this? How does it feel if I do this? How does it feel if I show up this way in fear? How does it feel if I show up this way? What guideline, what can I work up against that will let me test what it is that I need to test in terms of my choices and my experiences and how I'm going to stand on firm ground? I want to close my lesson with a haiku that I wrote. And a haiku is it's a Japanese lyric verse that basically that doesn't rhyme. It's unrhymed, and it has 3 lines. It has 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. And it sort of has a little twist to it. Okay? And so it's kind of interesting. And so this is sort of the haiku for my lesson today. So if you remember this, then you remember my lesson. The haiku is, stand on principle. The earth moves to its own beat. Dancing is very fun. Stand on principle. The earth moves to its own beat. Dancing is very fun. God bless you.